it's live and it's good. We got a few of you in the live stream. Good to see you. Hey, everybody, Gavin Syme. And I think we need to talk about Soros funding. Is George Soros really funding everything? And if George Soros is funding everything, is he actually funding nothing? Is that a paradox? Let's get into it. I think the first thing we need to talk about today to kind of lead into all of this, let's go to DuckDuckGo instead of Google, so we're getting a little more balanced response. I think the first thing we need to do to set the stage here, where's my little zoom? Let's search for IDF Babes, all right? IDF Babes. Now, IDF is the Israeli Defense Force. If you followed any sort of conservative patriot movement circles, pages, etc. for a long time, you've probably seen IDF propaganda. If you search for IDF Babes, you're going to get a lot of hot Jewish girls in IDF. The IDF makes a very concerted investment to making sure that their image is hot, young babes defending the homeland, and therefore they have to be the good guys because, I mean, look at their hot babes. And there's no denying. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the presentation of this. It's great propaganda, and the IDF is very, very good at propaganda. I mean, like side by sides, right? Hot IDF babes, military, bikinis. We're talking side by side, all right? So preface that with our understanding of what we're seeing happening in the world today. Propaganda is a very powerful tool, and the IDF is super, super good at it. Now we see all these. I'm going to be moving pretty fast here. This isn't going to be a long show, but we're going to cover a lot. And I'm going to be showing you news stories, screenshots, things like that along the way for reference, and you can go verify me and look them up yourself. Okay, keep the chat going, hit that like button. Now, even on Drudge, right? Unrest rocks universities. We love a good controversy. It's the only thing that makes the news go around. 300 arrests. New York City warned of radicalization. What do they mean by radicalization exactly? What is that? We're going to talk about that in just a second. Let's keep setting the stage. And thank you for the kind comments, guys. I saw this then, and this is actually what prompted me to go do a little research and throw up here for today's video, because they're like, oh, why do all the protests have matching tents? And then they're like, Soros funded. And I left a comment, which of course got mocked, because you can't comment on Facebook or on any state worshiping group or faction worshiping group with logic, right? You can't comment on people actually having human rights when it comes to refugees or immigration. You can't comment on the fact that people have a right to protest if the group you're in is against those protesters, because then you're just supporting radicalism. Is that what we're supporting? This is not just on Facebook, right? Let's look at the New York Post. I think we know where they stand on this. Soros funded, this is the headline, Soros funneled 15 million to groups rallying for Hamas. Okay, so they're rallying for Hamas. Now, I think we have to clarify something. These so-called groups, I've been watching the atrocity that's been happening. And politicians always wage war on each other in the name of this or the name of that, and who suffers is the children, the widow, the fatherless, all the people that, God tells us to protect. But for some reason, Christians are okay with us bombing them as long as they're the people we hate, even though I don't even think they know why we hate them. Why are Palestinians bad again? Now, we could get into, there's lots of videos that have got into the complex history of Israel and Palestine, and I'm not an expert at that. You know what I'm an expert at? I'm an expert at seeing through propaganda BS and trying to simplify that message and get us to think about loving each other, or at least get myself to think that. I don't know if I'm an expert at getting you to think that. So we have all this stuff going on, right? Each side putting their stuff out. But I've been following some of these guys like Resistance is Beautiful and other activists who might not be the normal activists in our in 2A movements or in auditing movements, and these guys are out protesting for Palestine. So basically we have this thing happening right now where if you support not literally murdering children in Palestine, you therefore support Hamas. And it's much the same as the argument that says, if I don't vote for two crap candidates, I have no right to complain. I absolutely deny your propaganda fraud. By not supporting one of two bad candidates and not voting for them, I still have every right to complain. I've given up zero right to complain because my voice was stronger in that case by refusing to support either one. In like manner, by not supporting the Israel Defense Force literally terrorizing a country, I think it's pretty evident. Look, take what IDF is doing in Palestine. If it was any other nation in that part of the world doing it to another group, they would immediately be labeled a terrorist organization based on what I've seen over the past 20 years. So why is it that IDF can do whatever the bleep they want? Well, they have friends in high places, and of course they have IDF Babes. They have been promoting that IDF is protecting the homeland, and they're good and they're great, and anything goes. Anything they do is to protect against anti-Semitism. Now, just so we're clear, Palestinians are Semites too. So now you come through and you have people protesting on colleges, because people from when this war first started, I started seeing videos and they're showing what Israel forces are doing. They're showing videos. I don't know if they're still doing it, but the actual IDF soldiers were like making TikToks, talking about how they're breaking into people's houses and stealing their stuff, selling, taking their properties, taking family homes, and literally having like events and posters out where you can go and buy other people's homes that were stolen from them by IDF soldiers. How is this any different than any other violent invasion? How is this? I got a question. How is what IDF and the state of Israel is doing in Palestine any different than what in the United States we did to the natives, to the Native Americans? We just stole their land for gold and power. We put them in reservations. How is it any different when you literally use guns to force people out of their house? Now, I know people are going to say, Gavin, as Christians, we have to support Israel. That is absolute heresy. That you have to support the abuse of the weak, the fatherless, and the widow, which is directly contrary to God's law, because the person abusing the weak, the fatherless, and the widow says, we're Israel. Now, there's no Jew hating. If you guys have followed me in my interviews back in the day, there was lots of people that tried to bait me into being anti-Jew. The kind of Jews did this mindset, right? This has nothing to do with that. And I said, whoa, we're not going into the racism thing. I respect everyone's right to exist. Palestine, Israel, Mexico, Africa, United States. People have a right to be left alone. I've always said this, that our rights are inherent. They are natural. They're not granted by constitutions, only affirmed by them. And we have a right to those no matter where we are in the world and no matter what idiot law says. And people say, Gavin, you're losing my respect. I shouldn't do videos talking on stuff I'm ignorant. I'm not ignorant on this. I have watched this propaganda building, particularly among conservative Christians, for 20 years. I see exactly what's happening. I'm not trying to do a history documentary here because I know that there's been bad things done from the Palestine side, from the Hamas side, from the Israel side. None of that matters. When you're the guy, here's the thing. You can always say, he did this, he did that. Remember when we were kids and like we'd run to tell, but then one would run ahead and be like, no, he did this. No, but he did this first. No, but they did that first. That's what Israel is right now. They're the little tattler, except going and saying, no, they did this to us, so we can do this. We're defending ourselves. That's why we're murdering women and children, killing babies and bombing hospitals. The only problem is it's not little kids fighting anymore. It's missiles being hurled back and forth. And it's not okay. It's not Christian to support it. Now, does this mean we come back and say, oh, well, we have to hate Jews? No, it's not about that at all. And anyone who says that I'm trying to imply that is just a liar, and they're creating propaganda as well. Look at what's happening. Police removing protesters on the campus, right? There's all these videos, all this stuff, and we see these hyper-militarized police. Hang on, I'm gonna get echo if I don't turn this off. Hang on a second, let me switch this to headphones. We see all these hyper-militarized police across the country, and they're raiding these protests, right? We see, there's a video here, and bear in mind, most of these videos I'm finding, the things I'm showing you, these aren't people, YouTubers that I follow or anything like that. I just have done some research to find examples.
Dozens of students occupied a Columbia building after the university's president announced that it would not divest from Israel. The building is itself significant, called Hamilton Hall, but renamed Hind Hall by protesters in memory of the 6-year-old Gazan girl killed under IDF fire. The building has a history. It's important
to understand that the IDF is making no effort to not murder innocents, right? They're trying to invade a country and take their stuff, and that's been pretty clear for months now.
To clear away Columbia's encampment and arrest the students.
Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Look at these. Do these look like people coming into you to try and calm a situation? Now, people say, oh, these protesters, you know, they're violent. I've been watching the Palestinian protesters for months now and seen their videos like on Instagram and stuff like that. They're actually very reasoned. They're showing actual videos of what is being done to these people, and they're saying this is outrageous, and they're absolutely right. And if you're actually paying attention at all and not just living in fake Christian la-la land where we have to support the state, what you're actually doing is worshiping the state, not God. Because God doesn't call us to abuse innocence. That doesn't mean that Jews don't have a right to freedom and to live free and to be left alone either. Of course they do. Everyone does. That's the point. That's the point. Now, what struck me today, and I want to keep moving here, is I saw this, and they're saying it's Soros funded. Look at all these tents. They're all the same. This is Soros funded. Guys, I've been called Soros funded before in my protest. Anytime someone on the more right-leaning side wants to make out like you're a shill, they say you're Soros funded. I never received a dime, by the way, from Soros. And I doubt most of these people are either, right? But what I see, let's go to the protests. Let's step away from the conflict of like, who's good, Palestine or Israel, for a second. The idea that if you have groups of students protesting, the police can just come in and arrest them. Now, the only people, when I'm watching these videos, the only people I see being violent is the police. The only people in riot gear are the police. The only people destroying the property of others in mass are the police. The only people throwing people to the ground, taking their phones away and preventing them and using force is the police. Now, but oh no, they have the same color tents. Soros is funding this. Can we come back to that right now? First of all, I don't know if these images are real. Maybe they found some images where everybody had the same tents. Probably somebody donated them. There's lots of images from these protests all over the place where people have other colored tents, right? In fact, it's not really even like, look at these protests, right? They're building these camps, and people say they don't have a right to build a camp. Most of these are public universities. So yes, people have a right to protest them and the things that they're supporting, because to support what is happening in Palestine is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And if you do, you are supporting murder. Now, that doesn't mean that it answers every question of the conflict, but to support the level of atrocities that the IDF is committing in Palestine, and that seems to be well documented and there's tons of evidence for, not just rumors, there's videos of it, is ridiculous. It's simply psycho or antichrist, if you will. And yes, Johnny, I think is onto something. Maybe it's the cheapest tent from Walmart. But here's the thing. Here's the thing people miss. People justify, oh yeah, finally, these idiot college students, they're getting arrested. That's what they should be. I'm so sick of everyone saying that everyone that doesn't agree with them should get arrested. And someone said when we started the show, like, what do you think about all these university protesters? I think they're really ignorant. A lot of times that's true. These are young people, they're passionate, somebody gets them fired up and they protest. But of all the things that people protest at universities, I think protesting for the right of Palestinians to live is a pretty good thing to be protesting for, guys. Now, does that mean they all have the right message, that none of them have any hate? No. But I've been watching the so-called pro-Palestinian protests that are being called pro-Hamas, that are being called anti-Israel. What these people are actually supporting is people not being murdered, people not having their homes stolen from them, people having a right to life, liberty, and property like we've supported here since day one, right? So maybe if you'd stop being propagandized by your church and by IDF babes, you could see through the propaganda and be like, wait, this is what politicians do. The Israeli state and the people running it right now are criminals. That has no effect on whether you support the rights of Jews. It's just like saying any other group of politicians are criminals, and these ones have gone too far. Too far. So you have all these university protests happening, and the only violence I'm seeing is coming from anti-protesters, from pro-IDF gets to do whatever it wants, from the Israeli state can do no wrong even though they're completely corrupt. What I see is police acting like the IDF. I think they train each other because they both act like thugs. And I've seen lots of videos of the IDF doing summary executions, murdering people, beating people, mocking prisoners, degrading people. I mean stuff that if you are sane, it should make you sick. Go look at, I'm not going to show all these videos right here because there's a lot of them and it would get this video censored, but they are important. Open your eyes and start looking at what's happening because there are vastly more videos. And that's the thing, is I've actually been educating myself. I'm not just blindly and stupidly following like a sheep at your local Republican Party meeting or your local Patriots Facebook group. There's so much evidence, not just random, not some AI generated obscure thing that's probably fake. There's so much video evidence of what is being done in Palestine. And I haven't made a lot of videos on it, I've just mentioned it in passing, but I won't be silent about it either. And props to the university students for actually protesting something that's relevant and that matters in the world. It's not okay what's happening. It's not okay. And so as we see all of these people that hate human rights, that value a state that they worship, the faction, the party they worship, over Jesus, over loving people, and over human rights, it's time to say no to those people. It's time to stop letting those people control the conversation because they're ignorant, they're foolish, they're children, they're immature, they're violent. And we just like we stand up to cops and fascist city hall members when we make videos, we have to stand up to these sycophants of criminals because it's not okay. And so I'm always willing to look at both sides, and I've been doing so for months now. And that's why initially I didn't make a lot of comments, and I've watched the videos. So I don't care about propaganda from either side. I'm not going to say Jews are bad guys, but I will happily say the current state of Israel is a criminal state. The politicians, it's not like all the Jews agree with this. That's an absolute fallacy. The idea that because someone's a Jew, they support what the criminals, the terrorists that are currently running the state of Israel are doing is an absolute propaganda fallacy as well. There's massive amounts that don't. So I'm not going to hate anyone, but I will absolutely oppose a criminal state. And so we have all these encampments and all this stuff going on, and the fact is, let's go back to these tents, right? And you have Texas, right? You have them arresting people. You have them doing all this crap. Look at who's terrorizing here. You got one guy and 10 cops, and these idiots over here standing there looking on like, oh, you know, we gotta round them up. We gotta round them up. Who's the criminals in these videos? Who do you think the criminals are? These young kids that are passionate and yelling about something, or these guys marching around like jackbooted thugs? Who's there trying to hurt someone? Are you this? I just want to know, like in the comments, are you dumb enough that you believe that these students are the problem? Are you dumb enough? If you do, please dislike this video now and tell me yes or tell me no in the comments. Are you that easy to fool? Are you that easy to propaganda? And if so, you really need to just full stop. Stop talking, stop posting, stop supporting, and start researching history. I'm sorry, like I'm a little passionate about this. I'm trying to be nice to everyone here, but it's crazy. Let's go back to these tents. They say Soros, they deserve to be arrested. This is all fake. It's George Soros funded. They say the same thing about the migrant trains that come up every year. This has been happening for years. It has nothing to do with George Soros. They travel in groups to go migrate to the States because it's safer that way. And they don't get screwed with as much that way because, yeah, they have a right to travel. So I don't even care if it's George Soros funded. I highly doubt George Soros is sending tents. But here's the thing, you guys. This is what actually sparked me to talk to this video, and I want to close with this, and then I want you to go do your own research. It doesn't matter who donated the tents. Oh, the tents are all the same. Someone's organizing this protest. There's always someone organizing the protest, guys. When we had the largest felony civil disobedience rally in United States history in Washington State in 2014, I was organizing it. Yeah, there was someone organizing it. Me, Bosworth, and others. But I was the one that said, this is what we're doing. I was organizing it, guys, with the help of friends. And that's why it happened. All the porta potties are the same color. Probably Soros funded it. No, I literally used my credit card from the donations that people gave to me to help with that rally. And I ordered the porta potties. I bought the speakers. So yeah, when you have protests, they're usually organized. It's very possible if the concept of the protest is we're going to camp out in front of the university, which people have a right to do. Most of these universities, and someone said, oh, you know, let's go back to this really quick. Here's what someone said to me. The Bill of Rights is a restriction on government, not private institutions. Private universities can restrict whatever protest speech gathering they want. State schools are a different story. First of all, let's look at this meme they're sharing that nobody bothered to research. 2 of the schools in this are publicly funded. Yale is considered a private university. You know how much money Yale gets? I think from the federal government in 2022, they got about $500 million. Does that sound like a private university? You see, if you say you're private, but the people are paying for you, that's not private. Not only that, people are paying to go to these schools. Yes, they have a right to protest on the quad. Yes, they have a right to camp out front. Now, I'm not saying they can break things and do whatever they want. The only right police have is to stop somebody that's hurting someone else, that's violating their property. The police have no right to remove protesters. That's ridiculous. People have a right to protest. Police have no right. Let me repeat this. Police have no right to remove protesters from a public place. And yes, these are public places. So let's not pretend. Even these private universities are public access places. Most of the people protesting are paying to go there. But more than that, if you're getting your way paid by our tax dollars, you're not private. I don't care what you say. You're not private. And you don't have the rights of someone in their private home, for example. If someone's protesting in your front lawn, in your living room, that's your private place, and you have a right to trespass them out. And at that point, a security officer could grab them and say, you have to go with your tent because it's your property. That doesn't apply here. People have a right to protest. They do have a right to disrupt. That's the whole point of protesting. It always has been. Ever heard of the Boston Tea Party? Ever heard of the Founding Fathers? Ever heard of the American Revolution? Every protest that was effective throughout history was disrupting people. And that's not to say you can hold people hostage. You can't prevent them from getting somewhere. If you block a road, let's say in protest, there has to be another way around. You can't prevent everyone's travel. But yes, you absolutely can protest and cause an inconvenience. That is a modern fallacy of political propaganda, that a protest can't disrupt people. The entire point of a protest is to disrupt. A protest can't violate someone else's life, liberty, or property. That doesn't necessarily mean that if they're blocking the park and you have to walk around that they're doing anything wrong. A protest can inconvenience you. And yes, I know it's annoying sometimes, but it has that right. That's the point of a protest. So no, In none of the cases I've seen where police are removing protesters from universities, did they have any right to do so? The police were the criminals. I saw no violence of any significant kind from the protesters. It was obvious who the aggressors were in the situation, one. Two, these universities are not private, even the ones that are saying they're a private university, and a lot of these protests are on public universities, but even the so-called private universities like Yale are receiving hundreds of millions of dollars of your money. That's not private. Three, a protest can and should disrupt society. That's the point. You're trying to draw attention to something and avoid outright war and violence by doing so. The idea of a protest is that you do the protest so that you can disrupt things enough to make change without violence using peace. And we should do so in a loving way. We should be careful not to violate anyone else's rights, but your factions, your right, your left, I'm for the blue, I'm for the black, I support Israel because Jesus, your excuses mean nothing. If people are being abused and you're supporting their abusers, you are partaker in their crimes. That's basic human rights, that's basic Christianity and biblical theology, and that's basic loving your neighbor as yourself. Just like with immigrants, just like with Palestinians, just like with any group of people. Stop thinking you're better than people. You racist snob. It's disgusting when we do this, and we have to stop. And we have to start calling out our friends and family and Facebook friends that are repeating this trash propaganda as if it's actually intelligent discussion. What we had here today, guys, was intelligent discussion. Now, please go out and make some more intelligent discussion.